Welcome everybody to Live Meetings Updates 2020 and beyond. This is Health Safety for Ground Transportation Meetings and Events. We have a special guest here today to talk about ground transportation, so we're really excited to have them on. And I'm going to kick us off by talking about that we're going to be talking today about all sorts of content. We are not attorneys. A lot of the information we're providing will be forward-looking statements. These are not to be considered as fact. They're our opinions. And just realize that that's what we're sharing, our best practices, we're sharing our experience, we're sharing our opinions with you to help our industry move forward. If you do have any legal questions, I would ask you to please consult an attorney for anything like that. Again, we are not attorneys on this show. The purpose of these programs, for those of you that have been with us for a while and doing these, you'll know that since May, I started gathering people together, mostly because a lot of people were feeling isolated and not sure how to move forward and desiring information, as was I. I didn't know what face-to-face meetings or in-person meetings were going to look like in the future. And so I started bringing together thought leaders from across the country and talking about how to navigate forward. And we were doing that every single week through September. And then in October, we started doing these the second Thursday of every month now. So really glad to have you guys on. And those of you that are coming back repeat, know that the purpose of the day is to elevate, to inspire, to share resources, to educate, and to get us back to business with safety top of mind, of course. So I want to make sure that you guys realize we do want you to leave here today with some tangibles. And I'll ask you at the end of the show again to make sure that you've left with something, but just really realize you're going to get out of this what you put into it. So make sure you guys are using the Q&A and asking questions throughout the entire program. So really appreciate again your participation in advance. So let's talk about some upcoming webinars. Right now we have Digital Destinations that's happening every Thursday. So we travel from across the world from the comfort of your home. I have my co-hosts Bianca Beal and Tawana Woods on with me, and we just have a comfortable chat about properties as they're opening up, so you know what to expect. So if you're looking for a vacation, a staycation, or you're looking to do a business meeting or just do business travel, we will showcase properties all across the country and world to kind of let you know how things are opening up and what to expect when you're there. You do not need to register for this. You just need to be liking us on Facebook or LinkedIn, like the Meeting Sites Pro page, and we go live on Thursdays at 11 a.m. So that'll happen right after this show. Next thing I want to point out is we do these live meetings updates again every second Thursday of every month. The next one's December 10th at 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. And this one's a special topic on HVAC systems and airflow. It's super important to have these discussions, and we want to discuss the latest indoor air quality management technologies that are available, and really how to ensure that your indoor air quality is free of airborne pathogens, including viruses. So that'll be a really great topic you don't want to miss. And we have Trained Technologies, which is a leader in this space, on to help with that conversation. In addition, we will have our regular hotel guests on to showcase how they're opening and meetings they're doing from across the country on that one. So you mark that calendar. You do need to register for that. QR codes in the upper corner here, but you can also go to our websites again to get the links to these. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about a Facebook page, Meetings Mean Business. I'm all about getting back to business. And so we started this Meetings Mean Business, Facebook group page. You may want to like us on there, follow us on there, do a lot of updates there to kind of keep everybody in tune to the latest updates and things that are happening when we don't have these shows every week. So I'm using that resource. I'm also on MeWe. We have a Mean Business page there. I did move off. I'm getting ready to transfer off Facebook. I'm using it still part-time. It'll take a little bit of a transition, but I am going to MeWe for the ability to be able to have free speech. So without it being everything being censored as Facebook does. So just be aware of that. Next thing is we have a donation page. If you guys are wanting to donate, feel free to donate. It is not a requirement. It is, it's really just, if you're able to do it, we would appreciate it. But if not, enjoy our shows anyway. Okay, With all that being said, I think the first slide that I want to show you is a resource slide. So this is on current openings, restrictions, and other COVID-19 related policies. This is a great resource I use all over. It's a dashboard, and it'll show you the latest information across the country and really just the whole world. So the links here, Isabella will be dropping this link into the chat. So you guys will have this as a resource moving forward. Also want to share health organization guidelines. There's key planning recommendations for mass gatherings that you're going to find a link to. I think while we're talking about this and I'm listing these resource links are going to be put inside the chat box. There's a coronavirus events as they happen. There's also a global research and coronavirus disease link. There's also public health preparedness for mass gatherings and events, which I wanted to include that link in. And then there's also one for considerations related to social distancing measures in response to COVID-19 and the US Centers of Disease Control guidance for gatherings and public health. So all of those resources are being dropped in. There's things I look at virtually every day, if not every other day right now, as everything's changing so fluidly. So please take a look at those. Pre-event communication is super important. I want to talk to you a little bit about that because this is a little different than what we've ever had to do before. Pre-event communication is what's going to set your entire program up for success. And it involves a duty of care for everybody involved, not just the planner, not just our suppliers, but also for the participants that are coming. And you're including them so that they're aware upfront of what to expect when they get on site. So you want to communicate health and safety protocols about mask wearing, social distancing that's required, hand washing, prepackaged food service. What are they going to expect when they're there? Let them know that upfront so they can make educated decisions on whether or not they want to participate. Detail out the measures that you as the event organizer or meeting planner are taking and that the venue are putting in place so that everybody knows what to expect, including their cleaning protocols. Ask people to stay home if they're not feeling well. That's super important in this environment and to encourage that. That's why I think hybrid's here to stay. And then we want to educate attendees about ways to stay healthy and control their exposure. And basically, a strong immune system is really a great defense. So we want to focus them on ways to do that. You want to allow flexibility for cancellations and options, various options for registration in this environment to make people feel more comfortable about at least even signing up to participate. And then be transparent about every detail being made to create the safe and healthy environment for all of them, for not just the attendees, the hotel staff, the company, and every individual that's involved. So be very transparent about your communications there. Other considerations that have been updated recently is entertainment. You want to ensure that really larger than required stages that we're using to ensure that your people on your stage are able to social distance and don't share microphones. I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but I want to lay some of these out to make it more clear on different things that we're doing right now. Food and beverage, pre-plated food, served buffets, individual packaged meals. We're going to show you some pictures. Some of our guests have gone to meetings recently, so I'm super excited to be sharing those pictures directly with you and having them talk about their meeting experiences firsthand in just a few moments. We want to eliminate any shared items like water. So instead, people are putting individually packaged waters or individually packaged wines or beer up. You want to implement social distancing and pre-plan to eliminate gathering points. Really important to think about all of these things up front. And then hygiene and safety cannot, if hygiene and safety cannot be accommodated, I would not have the event. So if there is an issue, I think recently there was a meeting that somebody had in Arizona where they had some inclemental weather and they had to bring a reception inside. And the person had their old meeting planning hat on. And so they went to an old paradigm of moving everybody in, and it turned out to be a total disaster. If in this environment, when changes happen like that, it's better to cancel than to fly by the seat of your pants because safety needs to come first. So I would encourage you guys to just think about those things because you never know what's going to happen. And you want to be able to think about in advance so that you know that how you would proceed versus trying to proceed in a manner that would, you come from an old paradigm. Okay, outdoor activities. Outdoor venues allow groups to spread out better and have better airflow with social distancing. And sometimes with the social distancing and the airflow, masks may not have to be required in those types of environments. So that's one of the things I like about the outdoor events. And then you can also create zones that allow for social distancing using marks on the ground. Some people have put X's, but some people do boxes and circles. I saw one recently. I think it was a concert where they had like a 6-foot bubble laid out for each person, so they knew what they danced in the center of that bubble. And then they had space between the bubbles that were also 3 feet on each side, so another 6 feet between each bubble. So it allowed a lot of extra space between them. So I really like that idea. Other considerations is to consideration people movement and flow. You want to identify entry and exits to eliminate crossover. You want to use traffic controls wherever possible and use ground markers and signage to direct participants. You want to lengthen your breaks and some of the time that's required between sessions in person to give people time to get back and forth. This new environment does create some confusion, and you want to give some people time so that they're not stressed and making mistakes trying to rush through. You want to stagger your break times too to eliminate crowded bathrooms and people movement throughout the halls. That's another great best practice that I love. And then for exhibit halls, we think considering appointment only options are a best practices. For registration and check-in, hands down, we want to be able to use touchless technology whenever possible. Stagger your registration times ahead of time. You can divide it by name or attendee type. You can consider mailing the badges. You want to have hand sanitizer and a barrier like plexiglass up. Use the ground markers to encourage people and signs to stay 6 feet apart. Have multiple registration areas. I love having a person directing traffic. So you may have multiple registration areas, and you have somebody directing the individuals to those different stations to make sure that doesn't get to be a gathering point or traffic flow issue. I love the idea of having fresh pens available. So you have a fresh pens kind of cup, and then you have a dirty pens cup. And so once somebody uses it, they put it in the dirty pens, and then we disinfect those pens before they're used again. That's also another great best practice for if you're going to have people have to sign something. QR codes are also great to use to minimize touch points. Other considerations are room sets. Again, more square footage is required than ever to accommodate social distancing. And while a lot of properties are opening and they're at different percentages, I still feel it's important that even if you're at those percentages, if you're going to be able to do these meetings and we're going to be doing them right with safety top of mind, we still need to consider the spatial distancing requirements as long as they're in place. So if they can do 50%, that's great, but it's 50% with social distancing that we should be looking at. Ensuring that social distancing along with mask wearing is enforced always when indoors, and then ask about airflow and HVAC systems so that you know like the best meeting space to meet in during the time that you're at a hotel or in any indoor spaces. Encourage participants to bring their own notepads and pens when possible. You can use directional signage to show which are entry and exit points, but they should be very clearly defined. And you want to ensure that the rooms are disinfected and cleaned during breaks. Rotate speakers rather than participants. We've talked about that on a lot of these shows already. And we're going to show a couple examples of some of these setups. In this top, you have banquet rounds. You also have banquet rounds over to the right. So the whole top row is the banquet rounds. You can see a best practice is setting 2 people across from each other at these things. You can sit up to 3 individuals and still have it be spatial distanced. And then the U-shaped one, I really like that. That is really large U-shape though. And so you may want to you may have to consider microphones depending on the size of that U-shape, because they are a lot more spread out now with 1 per 6 foot. And then you can also consider setups that would have 2 per 6 feet and a classroom style with a person at each end of the classroom. So we're going to put up a question right now just before I introduce the panel, and it's going to be, what type of ground transportation solutions have you discussed for your upcoming meetings? If you guys can take a moment and answer this question real quick, and I want to get at least 80% of you before I stop this. And then we're going to introduce our panel next. So we're going to go to that. Let's see where it looks like car service is by far. We need a few more of you to respond. We're almost there. Beautiful. Come on, guys. We need a few more of you. We're at 57%. I need to get up to about 80% so I get a real accurate account. Right now, it looks like car service is at about 80%, rideshare is about 25%, and public transportation is about 6%, fluctuating a little bit. By far, car service is leading the way here. Okay, I'm going to end the polling now. We're at 74%. Okay, so the results, car service, 81%. And that's fantastic to know. Rideshare, 23% of you. I know they're working on trying to get things more safe, but this is great news. And we have a great panel today that's going to be here. We have Eric Okon from BLS Company, the ground transportation company. We have Mai Lim from Station Casinos, Tracy Blair from the Sheraton Denver Downtown, Rebecca Riggs from Posadas, and Andy Masters from Masters Performance Improvement Incorporated. I'm going to bring on right now Eric Okon to join me. Eric, welcome. I'm really glad to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Michelle. That was an amazing intro that you just had there. really, like I'm learning a lot. So that was that was really amazing.
Thank you. It's a lot of information to put into a very short spot here. So I'm really excited about all the stuff you're doing. You're on the cutting edge of really ground transportation. And I know we have a video here to show. So let's have that show real quick. Fabulous.
Love it.
Okay. So tell us a little bit, Eric, about your company.
Sure. My family owns BLS. We've been in operation for over 50 years. We have 10 locations across the United States, along with thousands of trusted affiliate partners across the globe. Very importantly, we have an $11 million liability insurance policy. And we do have a specialized event department that handles events, from start to finish. You'll have a dedicated rep that will handle ground transportation from start to finish. That could even come on site. So they would be, taking reservations, and then they would come on site to make sure that the event would go flawless. And, you kind of be working with that person hand in hand.
And if that video really showed a lot of special things you're doing here. And I just want to pinpoint those a little more clearly, because that video did show very quickly. Mm-hmm. You have the plexiglass up, and there's a lot more that you're doing. Talk a little bit about the extra stuff you guys are doing to go over and beyond for safety.
Sure. Since October 19th, we began COVID-19 rapid testing for our chauffeurs. So for an additional fee, your chauffeur can be rapid tested prior to the ride. And that has been absolutely huge for business. And we're actually finding people are traveling more because that's available. So that's been absolutely huge. Before that, the number one requested thing was, does the vehicle have a divider in it? Now, we've been working on these dividers in the cars for the past 8 months. The dividers are now available in over 100 cities across the world: London, Paris, even secondary cities. And with enough notice, even in tertiary cities, we can have these dividers located in the cars. We even have in our major markets and our company-owned locations, we have decontamination booths that are basically filled with ionized salt water. And when you ionize salt water, it creates it as bleach. So we started doing that at the beginning of COVID-19 because chauffeurs were coming to us and they're like, we're out on the road and we don't exactly know, we only may have 1 or 2 suits. We can't get our suits dry cleaned every single day. What are we supposed to do if we're going to be picking up people from the airport and I don't want to bring anything home if I'm going to be all masked up? And we're like, you know what? we did a quick Google search and we found these decontamination booths, and it gives our chauffeurs peace of mind, and it gives our passengers even more peace of mind. We've installed,
Absolutely.
yeah, we've installed HEPA. You have another question?
No, I was going to say, I mean, it's so important. A lot of these things, I mean, I thought about the plexiglass was just a great idea when I talked to you before, but you've done all this extra steps is really, it made me confident. I told you when I first was talking to you that it was the one wild card that I couldn't put
Yep.
my arms around. And you've really done a great job of putting safety first. And really, I feel confident I would use your service and feel very
Thank you.
confident, feeling safe with it. So I just love all the stuff that you guys are doing with
Yeah,
this.
and I just want to add for everybody's room of reference, a large portion of our business has to do with the entertainment industry. And why this is important. They are filming again, and that means that they are traveling again.
Yeah.
So we have a fair bit of business, and we were really able to work out the kinks as far as safe transportation. And why are film production traveling again is because they keep it all in one bubble. So they use our services because they know the drivers are safe, and then they're transporting everybody in very controlled circumstances. And I really think that that can be pulled over into the meetings arena where we can keep everything in a very closed environment, very controlled. And I think people will be going to meetings again 100% of the way. So we've been working at those kinks, and we feel our whole protocol is very mature and very, very safe.
Well, thank you for doing that. Cause I mean, like I said, that was a big wild card for me. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk a little bit about, you said you do rapid testing.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, basically, we just need 12 hours notice, and I know these events, are well in advance. But with as little as 12 hours notice, we can have a chauffeur rapid tested. In our we have it available in 4 of our major markets for every ride that is taking place. So in New York, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Atlanta, rapid testing is available. Basically for any single ride. As far as for events are concerned, let's say there's a meeting in New Orleans as an example, we would have testing available for that meeting if it is requested. So it's been wonderful. And also, weekly we are testing every single one of our office employees every single week. And in addition, we also are testing chauffeurs randomly throughout the week, just for more peace of mind. And it's been phenomenal for that type of peace of mind.
Are there fees for this?
Yeah, it's $65
Okay.
for a rapid test, which we feel is fair. It covers the cost of the giving the test and the cost of the test. So that's $65 all inclusive. And if it's in New York or Atlanta, that would be plus tax.
Perfect. And I know you're saying you use vital oxide. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is? Marnie is one of our guests today, in the audience, and she was
Mm-hmm.
saying that they use it for disinfecting too. That it's a great disinfectant. But tell people
Sure.
what makes it so great.
Vital oxide, basically, it's a solution that continuously kills germs for up to 7 days. Now, vital oxide, it's put in those kind of those Ghostbuster looking fumigating guns where all the airlines have it now, all the hotels have it now, and you can see it's that little orange thing that one of our porters is holding there.
Yep.
And basically it fumigates the vehicle. And what's important is that we do this after every single shift change. And why that's important is because all of our chauffeurs, including our affiliate members, are employee-based models. So
Yep.
that means that we have full control over the fleet. A chauffeur comes in, they clock in, then they are assigned a vehicle. They are not taking these vehicles home. The vehicles are fully disinfected and they are sprayed with vital oxide multiple times daily.
Can you tell me, what cities or states are you available in? Like if we're having a meeting, is there
There's virtually everywhere.
okay,
Yeah, we have physical office locations with employees in 10 cities, which is New York, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Atlanta, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and 2 locations in Connecticut. I think that's all of them. We did have plans before COVID that we were opening up in Boston and London, but of course those got put on hold. But the plan is hopefully for next year that we will be expanding more, and putting more, brick and mortar locations in these cities.
Perfect. So if I have a meeting though now and I wanted to have it in several locations and you're not physically there now, you
Mhm.
could still set up the service to.
Yeah, yeah, we can still set up the service, and we use, you know, affiliate partners that we have long-term relationships with. And this, and why this is important. We do all the vetting in that local office. So we don't necessarily have an office in Miami or in New Orleans, but we have vendors in those cities that are vetted. It's with proper insurance. We make sure that they're following all of these same protocols. And that's very important, especially now because the landscape for ground travel has completely changed. Who's in business now is not what it was in January 2020, and that has to be taken into account. And we're doing that work as, you know, as sourcing vendors that are doing a good job and that are going to be in business down the road. So that's extremely important this day and age.
Thank you for that. And I do know your company is BLS, and you guys, it's on here as blsco.com. So those of you that are asking questions about how to contact Eric's company and hire them, they'd love the business. So it's www.b like boy, L like Larry, S like Sam, C like cat, O like October.com. And I think the other question that was asked here directly regarding what you're doing right now
Mhm.
is um, the standards. Is it the same standards for disinfecting and for the service that they could expect if, let's say, they're going to Boston where you don't have a direct.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so you guys make sure all that stuff's still in place across the board.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Now, you know, full disclosure here.
Yeah.
You know, 2 hours outside of Traverse, Michigan, Lafayette, Louisiana. It's in lesser known in smaller cities. It is harder to have the same exact protocols, but at the very least, you're going to get a car that has been disinfected or sanitized with some type of disinfectant, and you're going to get a driver that is wearing a mask. So that's at the very least. And 99% of the time, you're going to get a car with a divider in it. So that's at the very least. At the most, in major markets, especially, listen, if there's an event going on in Lafayette, Louisiana, we can bring in things from out of state to go and make sure that all the protocols are to be followed exactly as prescribed by the client.
Great. And then somebody's asking, Tammy Jeffries is asking, just curious, if disinfectant kills germs for up to 7 days, why would you need to spray after every use?
uh, because it's just peace of mind, and we built it into our protocol because it makes us feel safe. Listen, my vehicles are safe enough that I would put my children in there, and that's basically the bottom line. That, you know, we're transporting people. This is such a this is a person to person business, and we just have to take every single protocol. Listen, they're disinfected with vinyl oxide in between every single ride. Our chauffeurs are going to be wiping down the vehicle in the back seat as well. They're going to be wiping down all the touch points, the seats, the door handles, the door, and the controls. If we can, nobody is going to get sick in the back of a BLS car, and that is our goal, um, as ground travel providers.
Thanks, Eric. And then also, have your price points been affected considering all of the extra
No,
stuff you're doing?
no. There is
Safety
no there
precautions.
is no upcharge for any of this. We look at it as a cost of doing business, and we just want our wheels rolling again. So we're not now right now we don't feel as the time to raise prices. Maybe in a year or two,
Yep.
when things kind of level off a little bit, but right now, no.
And then Ron Havens is asking, how much have you had to expand your fleet to accommodate travelers?
Uh, Unfortunately, we haven't had to expand. You know, we're definitely turning on more vehicles and hiring more drivers as the months go on. This past Monday was our best Monday in 8 months. Before that, the Friday before that was our best Friday in 8 months. So
Yay, that's
we're
great.
breaking new, yeah, it's amazing. We are breaking new records, and we are expanding the fleet and keeping a tight leash on expenses. You know, it's a very operator driven business.
And then what about larger vehicles like buses or when they're transporting smaller groups or even larger
Yeah,
groups?
sure. Yeah, you know, those are great options, because you can transport larger amounts of people with physical distancing options. So if you order a 55 passenger bus or a 50 passenger bus, just for round numbers, you can put in 25 people into that bus and they can be physically distant. In the bus, there is a divider between the where the driver drives and the rest of the cabin. And we can work with the meeting planner and do temperature checks for every single passenger before they get onto the bus. So there's a lot of different things that we can do to work with you guys to make sure that it's as safe as humanly possible in those buses. And the same thing goes for sprinters and mini coaches. If you have a 16 passenger sprinter, we can put in 8 people, but of course that's all just recommendations. Obviously it's up to the passengers with how they want to travel and who they want to kind of sit next to. Like if you have a family traveling, of course they can all get in one SUV together.
Yeah, and Rachel, I hope that answers your question, because if there is a family, they're obviously not going to separate families up.
Right.
They're asking questions about, like, if there's multiple people, are you guys using multiple passengers? But you're not doing pickups. These are private car transfers, so they're not picking up somebody else on the way when they're picked up. So there's no strangers in the car.
Exactly. These this is not rideshare. And rideshare, they are not wiping down those cars in between those $8 rides. It's not happening. So, our drivers maximum are going to be doing 4 to 5 transfers per day. If not, they're going to be having passengers that are going to be keeping the bus or the car all day with them. So it's lower volume. It's not taxi or rideshare service. This is the safest form of ground transportation possible. And, and price points are important. And I don't want that to scare people away to say that it's going to be too expensive, because it's not. We are able to have competitive pricing that will make people feel safe.
Okay, perfect. I think that was my last question for you, Eric. Stay on the show because I'm going to have you join in again. But
Sure.
Thank you for sharing this first part of it.
Thanks, you for having me, Michelle.
Okay, next is Mai Lim. Mai, welcome to the show again. You've been on several times, so I'm glad to have you back. I know you've just gotten back from MPIWEC Gaylord it was at the Gaylord Texan Resort. So I'm super excited to hear from your perspective as a attendee how that went. But before we start that, I'd like to show a video, and just give us a second here to get to that video. I want to show a video of it.
Part of producing a successful meeting is the food and beverage, and F&B is also done in between sessions. So we want to show you how MPI at WC Grapevine is doing that safely. You can see here that refreshments and food is being served behind plexiglass in to-go boxes and also in bags by the wonderful team here at the Gaylord Texan. Give us a wave. Hi guys, thank you so much. So what attendees are doing is they're checking out what's available, looking at these menus right here, and then the team at the Gaylord Texan is actually handing us our snacks. What you're seeing on your screen now is a look at how MPI has incorporated their duty of care into their on-site beverage carts. From contact-free coffee to individually packaged condiments, there's so much that you can do to keep attendees safe when it comes to doing food and beverage. We hope you found this information insightful. Thanks for joining us on this edition of MPI TV, sponsored by Alhi.
Perfect. So we saw how the food and beverage was done there. It looks like it was fantastic. They did a lot of the stuff that I was talking about at the beginning. How did you feel in participating in their food functions?
MPI and Gaylord Texan really did an awesome job in making sure that everybody is safe without taking away the personalization of the event. It was still very warm. They followed every protocol that kept everybody safe. Masks are required, temperature checks every day before you start or before you can even go into the sessions. And, as Annette Gregg had pointed it out, there were mask police because there were a lot of individuals that were there to remind you nicely that, you have to have your masks over your nose, not just on your face, but like you have to cover it. So overall, I was so happy and so proud to see that our industry is able to put an event together. and make it very safe for all attendees.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like it was really safe. And a lot of this stuff, it is hard to figure out how to do food and beverage. And I think it depends on the function. But how many people were at that meeting in person?
I believe there was over 600 in person and about maybe 1,200 digitally. And Gaylord has ample space to accommodate more than 600 people.
Yeah. So, I mean, just wonderful. So you were able to do that in a very successful manner and still serve everybody. Everybody got what they needed for it. We're going to show one more video here in just a minute.
Blueprint on how to get your organization back to business. The experience started with one-on-one pre-arranged appointments at MPI's acclaimed Hosted Buyer program. MPI is practicing safety precautions with plexiglass dividers and socially distanced tables to give attendees peace of mind while doing business.
All of the protocols that they have in place makes me feel safe that I'm not taking something home back to my family, and helping to ensure that MPI cares about you, knows that how serious this pandemic is and that we're looking out for the benefit of those who attend in-person meetings.
I was a little nervous coming to begin with, but you guys have done a fantastic job. The plexiglass, I mean, we're separated from people, but we can still hear each other.
It still feels like a normal meeting. Nobody feels uncomfortable. And we're still having as much of a normal experience as possible here.
Cleaning protocols that have been put in place make it extremely safe. So I feel like it's a safe place to do business and that the opportunities are there. Certainly worth a while.
Tune in.
Fantastic. I'm going to ask Isabella to go back to the slide.
Sponsored by Alhi through.
I had the food on it. Okay, so there's a lot of great things that came out of that, and there's also a lot of questions that are being asked here. I want to kick off though by showing this picture on the right. I really love. I keep talking about prepackaged, individually served drinks as like a best practices. You've got a small bottle of wine here, and tell us about the setup of the food. It looks beautiful, and it's still packaged.
Gaylord did an amazing job in putting this together. This was the last luncheon we have. And this was to kick off and announce MPI WEC 2021 that will be held in Las Vegas. We're so excited about this, by the way. It was preset, and right next to the plate, you can see that there is a menu card. So signage and constant communication, having all this information available at the hands of the attendees without having to ask or to look for information is super, super helpful. This was the appetizer, which was amazing. And it was nicely done with a cover over it. And if you can also look closely, the desserts and the water are covered.
Yes.
So there's no exposure. You open it up as you are ready to consume, and definitely appreciated the mini bottle of Prosecco that they served. Again, it minimized the touch points by having it nicely placed on the table.
Yeah, I love that service. I think it looks very elegant. So, I mean, some people are asking, how can we do this and still make it look good? This is an example of how you can do that. There's a number of packaged, from bento boxes to boxed lunches and really everything in between. We have a question here for coffee service. Mm-hmm. How does the coffee service work generally? There's two different people. Ruth's asking about coffee service. Laura's asking about coffee service. What was used to open a spout? How did the coffee service work? Any suggestions for some smaller meetings for coffee service? Based on your experience, not only this one, but the other meetings that you've gone to and done, what's your recommendation for coffee service?
I've seen it done both ways. For us, we have done it wherein it's personalized and it's served to you. So there is a server where you actually, it's more like ordering it from a Starbucks, where you tell them what you want and then they hand you your coffee. There's a separate area or a prepackaged coffee, creamer, sugar right next to it. For for Gaylord Texan, what they did was they have the urns out, the coffee urns out. However, instead of touching the spout, you're able to actually push through it. They have have a contraption that was placed where the spouts are, and it's similar to what a soda dispenser would look like. So there's again a very limited touch point because you can use your cup to push it, and coffee or hot water come out. And next to it is a very nicely and safely placed condiments area, and most of their condiments were pre-packed.
Perfect. And I know we're going to show some videos, you guys, of some actual coffee service here in a little bit. So stay on to see that, because you'll be able to see that being done firsthand in a couple different ways to actually do that.
So I do want to add a little bit about the luncheon, because there were entrees that were served during the luncheon as well. And it was served in a dish with 3 separations, and there were 3 different options that you have. So there's a vegetarian option, which is your salad and a sandwich, and I can't remember the other one, but there were 3 different options served together in a nice little plate with divisions. So there's really a way to serve a meal without removing the presentation.
Absolutely. I love some of the creativity of this, of what's come out of this area. So it's been fantastic. So I'm going to ask you this. Did MPI provide masks for everybody?
There are some that they actually mailed it with our attendee kit. So everything was mailed to us. That's our badge, sanitation wipes, masks with a very nice smile, so it looks like you're smiling, and sanitation, hand sanitizers. So they were very, very well prepared. They also gave us this, I cannot remember the name of it, but you can attach it to your keychain, and you can use it to for elevators or to open doors, to limit touch points. So MPI did a very good job in making sure that we are very safe and we're very well prepared to attend a conference. And
if they didn't have it when they got on site, did they provide another one for them?
There is a registration desk that is available. So they can, if they weren't able to get it, they can go up to the registration desk. There were disposable masks provided by the Gaylord and MPI.
Okay, and I know this is the last thing I'm going to bring up. There's people who are asking about mask police, who was responsible for administrating or making sure it was at the hotel or the organization. And I keep saying that everybody has a duty of care to the mask challenge here. And part of what I talked about earlier on is that pre-event communication is so key. And we've talked about this on several of the shows, that the more you can communicate up front your policies, and you let people be involved in that ahead of time, so they're signing and agreeing to these policies. And if they don't agree to them in advance, then they don't have to come to the program. So generally speaking, the people who are showing up aren't the people who are going to have trouble wearing them. They were aware that it was not going to be accepted to be there without a mask. It's not accepted. So if you have a health issue, don't come to the meeting. You have to wear a mask.
That is correct.
This comes up over and over and over again at all of these. I feel like people are trying to find a hole or a loophole in this. There's no loophole in this. If you come to the meeting, you wear a mask. If you don't wear a mask, you don't come to the meeting. That's it.
I mean, really, at the end of the day, it is our individual responsibility to keep ourselves and everybody around us safe. And the only way we can really get our industry to move forward, for us to meet again, is to be trustworthy that we are going to practice it. We have to eliminate the differences of opinion about masking. Masking is what's going to keep all of us safe and help us move our industry forward.
Thanks, Mai, on that note. And stay on, because I'm going to have you return here in just a moment. I'm going to welcome to the show now Tracy from the Sheraton Denver downtown. Tracy, so glad to have you on the show. Do appreciate it. And we're going to kick off with one of Tracy's slides while she comes on. So go ahead and our videos.
For over 90 years, Marriott International has been dedicated to caring for our guests. As we welcome you back to our hotels around the world, We will do what we've always done. Take care of you. Your meetings and events journey starts with our commitment to providing you with an environment that aligns with expert protocols, elevating our exacting standards to even higher levels. We are redefining spaces and making thoughtful enhancements to every step in the process. Preparation is key. High standards of protection protocols involve each partner working together from larger organized movements down to the smallest details. When you step through our doors, check in fast and hassle-free. Or if you prefer, unlock your stay with the Marriott Bonvoy app on your mobile device. With just a few taps, your room is your sanctuary. We've taken every precautionary measure to refresh and ready your room to the highest standards. Choose to register virtually or on-site on the day of the event. We're ready, focused on setting you up for success at every touchpoint, committed to creating distinctive events. Inspire and effectively engage your attendees as we continue to work behind the scenes to give you peace of mind. When it's time for a break, your attendees will have their own spaces to enjoy their coffee and indulge in nutritious snacks with individually packed treats and pass-around drinks. Our food and beverage setups have been redesigned to maintain appropriate distancing. When it's time for lunch, savor our signature menus tailored to exceed your expectations. Count on our classic handcrafted beverages to lift your spirits. Indulge yourself with exquisite culinary sensations, all prepared and individually portioned to perfection behind the scenes. We will continue to evolve our solutions based on local government and public health guidelines, with continued focus on cleanliness, quality, and exemplary service. Your welcome awaits.
Thanks for that. This is such a beautiful video. You guys did a great job. I know we're just getting us hot off the press, so I'm really glad to see all the different stuff that you guys are putting in place, Tracy, and just moving forward. And I know you've been doing meetings, and we've had meetings booked with you, and unfortunately ours have had to cancel during the COVID timeframe as well. But I love having this partnership with you. You guys have done a fantastic job. I just really enjoy working with your hotel. So can you tell us a little bit and share with us some of the things you're doing right now in meeting room setups during COVID to socially distance, and just some of the policies you're put in place that are already outlined in the video, but I just like to hear you talk about it.
Yes, thank you, Michelle, and thank you for having me today. I am here in Denver experiencing one of our 300 days of sunshine, but behind me is our beautifully new transformed lobby experience. We recently went through an $80 million transformation. This picture here that you can see is of our transformed ballroom space. And a few weeks ago, we hosted an organization that had 300 in-person attendees, 800 attendees attended virtually. So it was a true hybrid event, a great success. There's a testimonial that we'll share in a few slides, but this is really just showing the actual breakdown of the meeting as it happened, with the floor plans to the right. So we divided it into 3 concurrent general sessions, 100 each, because those were the guidelines, the city and state guidelines at that time when we hosted the event. There was this amazing video wall. PSAB is our technology partner that delivered just an exceptional experience. So those 3 general sessions went concurrently. And, you know, we were talking a lot about breaks and, you know, how that works. And this particular organization divided their attendees into cohorts so that the breaks actually came into their rooms, because that is one spot that you definitely have to work through is the break experience, making sure that it's timed correctly. Their breakouts were having their presenters for the breakouts rotate in and out of their meeting rooms. And they utilized on that previous slide Chime, which was a platform that you can use for meetings.
Yeah, and I love, like I said, your innovation's been great. Can you talk a little bit about Chime? what specifically,
Yes, so Chime is a platform that PSAV, that's the platform that they selected. And one of the key features of this, it can be branded for your organization. You have, you know, virtual, live and recorded sessions, but the breakouts, this really allows for the attendees to have the flexibility. I mentioned having presenters move for the in-person attendees, but some of the attendees who maybe wanted to attend a different breakout could go to their room or one of the studios that we have in our public space, and they could log on virtually and attend any of the breakouts that they wanted. Recently, Marriott hosted an event at the Ritz-Carlton in Tyson's Corner for meeting planners, and they used an app called Meeting Play. And that's another amazing piece of technology. What Meeting Play allows you to do, if you're attending virtually, you can go in and select your seat, and you can change your view in the general session or in these breakouts throughout your experience. So these two platforms really allow for attendees to have the full conference experience when they can't be there in person. But additionally, Michelle, if you are in person, it allows you the flexibility to see other breakouts that you might not have been able to before, because you don't have to limit the capacities necessarily with person.
Thank you for that. I mean, I do agree. We're able to do this. I mean, there's some comments on here that are like that they would have known like all the safety precautions that we've been putting into stuff, that they would be a lot more comfortable going to these programs. Is there anything else that you can tell us that you're doing right now that you'd like us to be aware of?
You know, really a lot of feedback from the Connect with Confidence program that we had with over 300 meeting planners, and is mostly just what you said. People aren't aware of all these commitment to clean protocols that are in place, that meetings are happening all across the country. And a lot of times the meeting planners, that first level are engaged, but the stakeholders and you know, other entities, meeting owners within the organization don't have this information. And so they're not feeling as confident to move forward with in-person hybrid events. We do have Marriott Bonvoy events where we host all the best practices, meetings, testimonials that have taken place. In fact, the Gaylord Texan is obviously in our family, and MPI WEC would be there. Yep. But really just making sure that we're getting all of this information into the hands of those key decision makers. You know, the video that we sent also helps the meeting attendee. A lot of people haven't traveled. This is the first meeting that they're attending. So being able to see live, how's it going to flow? What's it going to look like when I arrive at the front desk? Having all these contactless protocols in place. You know, through Marriott Bonvoy app, you don't even have to interact with the front desk. You can go straight to your room, check in with your phone. There's contactless food and beverage on demand. So there's so many different opportunities through technology to people to engage or not engage as much as they personally feel comfortable with when attending events.
Perfect. And I don't know if this next slide, what's the next slide on here?
This was just a testimonial from that meeting. And I think what was something to call out here is there were 46 exhibitors that attended in person, and the exhibitors felt that it was a very successful event, because obviously that's another component, you know, getting your exhibitors to feel like they'll get an ROI from the program. And so overall, what I would comment here is that it's all about pre-planning. It's about flexibility and engaging technology. Communication is key throughout the entire organization. And this was just one great testimonial from an organization that had 300 people in person, 800 virtual. They actually had better attendance, Michelle, than if they would have hosted the in-person event in what we call normalized times. So
I love that. And I mean, I feel like the hybrid's going to be a portion of all of these. And I feel like we are getting more participants, even because of the changes that we're making. We're getting more in person and more that are being able to participate because it's available online as well. This is some unique food service you guys have. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing there. It looks beautiful, and I'm hungry.
Yes, and you know, it's all about creativity and really being able to package smartly, obviously being eco-friendly as well, which we're very proud of. But still providing people choices. I think we did a great job of highlighting what the Texan had done. Very similar. It's about prepackaged, easy access, and still having choices and having that exceptional food and beverage culinary experience that you would expect, just doing it in a different way. And again, one thing to call out is just those egress points with breaks. That's one of the biggest things that we all learned quickly, you know, directional signs, but it's all about timing and communication. And it's amazing how people are just adapt very quickly. And, you know, mask wearing is not an issue. Food and beverage, keeping it potentially in the same room that you're meeting with, but you don't have to miss a beat with that culinary experience.
I appreciate it. And it does, I mean, it does show all the stuff that we're doing. There's ways to do most anything somebody's thinking about doing right now. It's just not going to be the normal. It's our new normal. And the more we embrace that, the better that's going to be. I'm going to look at a couple questions here, but while I'm looking at that, they're asking, was all the food cold at the ones that you were doing, or do you guys serve hot food as well?
Absolutely, yes. These examples here happen to be a lunch that was cold, but there's bento boxes, and then there's also, we did several hot entrees that were preset when people came back from a break, and they were covered appropriately. Everything was kept protected and clean, but yes. And then just providing choices, just as you simply would with the division with the plate. But each individual setting having that meal preset. So when they come back into the room, it's there. So that also cuts down on people having to traverse and intermingle. You know, we're very fortunate here. We have 133,000 square feet of space, but we're able to very much segregate and have meetings separate. So, yeah. Or we can open everything up and be large and have a meeting. This meeting of 300 took over a lot of that 133,000 square feet of space.
And then with all the extra packaging and safety protocols you're getting in, are you guys increasing your rates at all? This comes up on every meeting. I don't know why people keep asking that, because I feel like a lot of the costs have been shifted. Like your cleaning pieces used to be behind the house, right? Back of the house. And yes. Now we're encouraging everybody to clean front of the house, and they're still cleaning back, but they're cleaning up front, and it's just more evident. And you have less staff that's working in the kitchen. So, I mean, because of social distancing requirements. So just speak to this a little bit, because this question on every single one of these calls, doesn't matter how many I do, it comes up over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's how we've always conducted business. It's finding a balance between the needs of the organization and their budget, and then obviously balancing out what we can deliver within the means. And so, like you said, you save in some places, and in some places the cost of doing business has definitely increased, and it's about finding that balance, being smart operators, and figuring out how to get everything to balance for a profit.
And then I'm going to ask you another question. Sheraton in general, I know you're doing really well with all of this stuff. The question is, can they assume that all Sheratons are following the same protocol, or is it up to each individual hotel on how they handle that?
Great question. The video that I shared you is actually, we are the Sheraton brand is part of the Marriott family, as is the Gaylord, and we have 30 brands in total. Those commitment to clean protocols are in place at every single one of our properties. Obviously, being a convention resort network property, we have the meeting and events protocols really dialed in as part of our network. But yes, you would expect those commitment to clean protocols and connect with confidence protocols across our portfolio.
Perfect. Thank you, Tracy, very, very much for being on. I do appreciate it. Stay on the show, because there's more questions in here. I just want to make sure I get through everybody and then bring everybody back on, and I'll ask you more. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank
Next
you.
up is Rebecca from Posadas. I'm so glad to have you on, Rebecca. And I know we're going to show a video while she comes on camera.
Good morning, Michelle.
For
Thank
more
you
than
so much for
50
having me.
years, Posadas has been the second home to our guests. That is why today, more than ever, we reaffirm our commitment to our clients, guests, and employees. We have developed a global prevention, hygiene, and sanitation program called Travel with Confidence that will be available at our more than 180 hotels around Mexico. Live Aqua, Grand Fiesta Americana, Fiesta Americana, The Explorian, Fiesta Inn, Gamma, and One. We'll have a protocol program endorsed by a new partnership with 3M, whose products will be used in every single space of our hotels. We have implemented highly effective sanitary measures in order to be able to offer memorable experiences in a safe environment. From the moment our guests and employees arrive, around public areas, elevators, and accommodations. All of our hotel employees are trained in prevention, hygiene, and sanitation protocols. The global program Travel with Confidence includes the following protocols: check-in and check-out. We have installed acrylic shields to protect our guests and employees during check-in, check-out, and any other encounter. Furthermore, we will provide each guest with a hygiene products kit to use during their stay. Digital check-in and express check-out will be available for better efficiency, safety, and even less contact. Guest rooms. In our guest rooms, we have implemented a new 3-step protocol. First of all, our regular daily housekeeping. Second, sanitizing with 3M products. Finally, but not least, a sanitary misting multiple times per day for total protection. Food and beverage. Grab-and-go service is also available, thus offering greater safety and confidence in the handling of food. We're using disposable placemats featuring a QR code so guests can access the restaurant's menu while avoiding the use of physical ones. Now, room service will be delivered without contact, left directly outside of the door, ready for the guest to enjoy. Public spaces and communal areas. We have increased the frequency of cleaning and disinfecting areas such as front desk, doors, hallways, elevators, co-working spaces, and fitness center. In communal areas, we have implemented effective measures and clear signage to facilitate social distancing. Pools and beaches. The pools will have a maximum capacity, and the lounge chairs, cabana, and umbrellas will be separated to ensure a healthy social distance between our guests. We have also increased the frequency of disinfection of swimming pools. With our Travel with Confidence program, we're ready to welcome you back. Together, we will continue to create unforgettable experiences whenever you're ready to join us again.
Thanks, Rebecca, for putting that together. I know for those of you guys on, I know that the videos are long. I generally don't play them that long, so I cut this one a little bit short because I just wanted to make sure we get the information out there. So talk to us a little bit about Mexico, and because I know you can travel. We actually see a lot of groups that are going right now down to Cancun and Cabo. So I know that it's a big, I mean, I feel like you guys are leading the way actually back in a lot of respects. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. Thank you, Michelle, for having me on the show today. Yes, we are, as a country, very much similar to the way the U.S. is holding or handling COVID, and it is a state-by-state mandate. So each state is running by the type of a traffic light. So red, orange, yellow, and green. Red, of course, is where we never want to go back to again. And then right now, the majority of the country is between orange and yellow. And we have one state in Mexico right now that is on the green level. But each of these states, and it also depends on the states regarding the percentages, they will allow X amount of the rooms to be sold. Meaning, for instance, when we're on the orange level, it's anywhere between 30 and 50% of the room inventory is allowed to be sold. And the same thing with yellow, it's anywhere between 50 and 75% of the room inventory being allowed to be sold. This also is in place with all the restaurants, not just our restaurants, of course, but the restaurants within the country, as well as off-site activities, boats, things like that. Those are the capacity levels that they're allowed to be at, depending upon the color code of that particular state.
So right now, most of the states right now are, in orange, are able to do 30% inventory, and Puerto Vallarta right now can do 50%, correct?
Well, actually, the map indicates that the major tourist destinations like Los Cabos, Puerto Vallarta, Cancun, Riviera Maya are actually all in yellow. So we're actually able to sell up to 70 to 75% of our inventory.
That's fantastic news. That's where I keep seeing so many people traveling over there. So that's really wonderful.
Correct.
So let's talk a little bit. You guys have something unique over there with the insurance coverage, which I haven't seen in a lot of places other than Mexico. So tell us about this.
Sure. So this insurance is optional, although it's a very, very affordable cost, and it is a per person cost per day. And this will cover any illness, whether it's COVID related or you trip and fall. This will cover you completely, everything from the actual medical expense, if you have to take transportation to a hospital or a medical facility, as well as if you're having to stay over your date that you're supposed to depart, up to 5 nights after the nights that you were supposed to depart.
Yeah, and it covers hotel expenses with food and beverage, and it's literally $5 basically in US a day, right?
That's $5 per person per day.
It's incredible opportunity to have that, and it covers emergency ambulance services. So while you may not do it, $5 would cover you for everything. That's just peace of mind, and I just love that that's available during this time frame, especially. So tell me a little bit. You guys have a benefits program, and to recognize travelers. Tell us a little bit about the benefits program, and also any specials that you guys are running.
Sure. We designed a program called Recognition, and the reason why is because we have a very heavy market with the incentive market. And what this program does is this allows companies to keep their promises to their employees and their top performers in regards to incentive travel. But this allows them to travel individually. So not only are you, the company, able to keep their promise to allow their top performers to travel, but it also helps when it comes to those companies that aren't really safe or aren't really sure about having them travel as an actual group. This way they can pick a 6-month period, and the individuals are able to pick any date within that time frame to travel down on their own.
Perfect. I love all the specials that are going on right now. I love all the creativity. I know I've had a couple of your shows, your people on my other show, the Digital Destinations, and I love seeing the Fiesta Americana in Cancun and Puerto Vallarta, and all of the great things they're doing in the meetings. That's where I first heard about. I was looking through my notes. I was like, I know I heard about that from one of your properties about the health insurance, but I just love that they're getting back to business, and they're doing it as well with safety top of mind, with the same protocols, with mask requirements. They're wearing gloves. They're using plexiglass. So you can expect the same type of rigid policies that, and I use the word rigid very, very specifically because I want people to know that there's not flexibility around this. So you wear a mask, you wear a mask. If you do have somebody that's not willing to wear a mask at one of your properties, how are you handling that? There's people who are asking that question because they're concerned.
Our staff is trained to request everyone to wear a mask, especially in the indoor areas. You know, clearly when they're out by the pools or on the beach and they're socially distanced, because that's the way all of our furniture has been set up, then, you know, clearly you can enjoy those times by yourself, you know, without your mask. However, if you are in the indoor areas, whether it's walking through the corridors or in the elevators, front desk, any of the major indoor areas, our employees are trained to politely ask everyone to continue to wear masks.
Perfect. And Rebecca, if somebody wants to contact you, because I have questions regarding some of the stuff that you have on here, how can they reach you? I know we're going to drop it in, but just real quick to say it out loud, we're going to drop it into the chat, but so you can say it out loud would be great.
Sure. You can email me at rebecca.riggs@posadas.com, or you can give me a call on my office line, and that's 702-898-2356.
Okay, Rebecca, don't go anywhere. Just go off camera, but I'm going to have you back on in just a few minutes. I'm going to welcome to the show now, Andy. Andy Masters is with Masters Performance Improvement, Inc. And Andy's been traveling. He's been a busy man. He's been traveling all over. He just got back from a program at the Mirage in Las Vegas. And he also had another program he did at the Sheraton Memphis. And he's going to talk a little bit about his experience there as a speaker. And we're going to show you some pictures with each of those. So Andy, if you could kick us off, welcome, and talk to us a little bit about this particular slide about the Mirage Las Vegas meeting that happened, and about specifically their apps and the things that are in these pictures that made it safety top of mind.
Absolutely, and thanks so much for having me, Michelle. And I actually want to first just show an acknowledgement and appreciation for the hotel, the venue staff, the meeting planners, and all the volunteers for those events, because there's so much behind the scenes that is going on to try to prepare for these from an arrangement standpoint and protocols. It's unbelievable. I think they've been watching your updates every other week. So absolutely. So from a registration standpoint in that process, you know, first, of course, was the hotel registration, and both locations that I went to, of course, had the apps that you can download for the online check-in and digital room key as well. And in fact, the Mirage, as you might recall, for those that have been there even pre-COVID, they have a kiosk where you can actually go use the QR codes, and you can create your own. You can create your own room key there if you prefer to have a physical room key. So I thought that was great. Importantly, regarding the registration process, though, both events that I presented at used the apps. I think they were on the previous screen. 2 different apps. I know there's 1,000 of them out there.
Yes.
But the first event used an app called Eventpedia. And the second was Whova, which is a very popular one out there right now. And importantly, they could go on, of course, look at agendas, but on the first app, on Eventpedia, they were able to take their survey each morning. You're supposed to take a survey to acknowledge, do I have any symptoms? Have I been around someone with symptoms in that? The second event in Memphis actually had you fill out literally a piece of paper at the registration desk, so each way. And I think the last item note just on the registration process of it is temperature checks. Both events had temperature checks where it was on the forehead, by the way, and did contactless print your own badge, again, using the QR code scan. And last, I just want to throw in that both events had pin giveaways as well. So the whole, like when you wash the pins, it's a great time for sponsors to show up with that. So there was pin giveaways, you sign your name in and you get to keep the pin, which I thought was great. Fantastic for attendees, yes.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. I know that's been really important. I want to remind the audience, please drop your questions into the Q&A section and not the chat. We're almost on bringing all the panelists back, and we're going to ask all those questions that are in there that haven't been answered yet. We will answer those when we get all the panelists back on again. But if you have specific other questions or anything that you haven't gotten answered yet, I urge you guys to please put that in there, because the goal of the show is to make sure that you get the answers to your burning questions. And I'm only able to do that if you guys are asking those questions. So Andy, I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about the entrance and the next slide, which is the registration area. I know you talked a little bit about touchless, but you can also see that they had signs up, and I love the picture of you over here in front of the Mirage.
Yeah. Oh, my kids love that one too. And so absolutely, that's the registration process. And I think importantly, and again, this will be my last takeaway as well, signage. I think it is so important for attendees not just to understand the instructions of what to do, but boy, it just made me feel good that there's been a lot of preparation, a lot of thought put into it. And that is peace of mind for not just our attendees, but for our industry to keep moving forward, that, hey, this is a well thought out process. And I know I had on the next slide, if you want to shoot over to those, you know, as a presenter, you know, room setup is really important to me. There's the F&B. I'll jump to F&B. Very interesting. So yeah, thanks. The room setup is in there as well. So I guess on F&B, the most important the most normal aspect of either day, it was 2 consecutive days last week in Las Vegas and Memphis, the most normal aspect was actually the outdoor reception. Okay, that looked quote unquote normal. It was great. There was socially distanced high top tables. And if you see on the picture on the upper left, I believe that was the outdoor stand. It had plexiglass. And then of course, the bottom left, there are, you know, people around wearing masks, of course. And there was also a bartender as well. So that was very, a sense of normalcy there.
And Andy, real quick on that, for this reception, because somebody's asking in terms of food and beverage setup and flow, you were saying that went really well. It was somewhat normal, but you did feel safe in it. What were some of the things that made you feel safe, but still connected at those receptions?
Yeah, I think the number one thing, you know, obviously the plexiglass in front right there, again, I believe in plexiglass, especially if I know in a food environment where people are breathing on top of it. Yeah. And you put in, it's not a buffet style, of course. You literally put in your order in the beginning, and then you walk towards the end and they will hand it to you, and you socially distance in the line along the way. I will mention though that the bar with the bartender did not have plexiglass. I'm not you know, sure why that might have been. I'm sure there's probably a good reason for it, but I did want to make note of that. You might be able to see that from the corner photo there.
Yeah, and I feel like most of the ones I've been to do have plexiglass at the bar as well. I'm not sure why yours didn't. Were they serving open lidded cups or were they covered?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think you're going to trick me on that one.
Well, the reason why I bring it up is because if they were like packaged bottles, I don't see a reason to have the plexiglass, and I could understand that. But if they were open, I would say it's more of a concern.
And that might have been. And then I believe, and again, I know several slides of those photos. The breakfast had the plexiglass as well. There were 4 people sitting per table. I just wanted to make a note of that. You'll see at the bottom picture there, or is that 3 others, 4 there? So, and I found that interesting because in the meeting room itself, which we'll get to in a second, the meeting rooms were socially distanced table, 1 person per table. So I just want to make that observation there.
Yeah, and I was thinking that too. I mean, there's comments in here about 4 people at a round, but you can't social distance with 4 people at a round. You just can't do it. So I would say, while I know that there are people that are doing it like this, if you keep your masks on, I'm not as concerned about having 4 people at a round. But with your mask off, being inside, I would be concerned about that. I mean, to be honest with you, it's supposed to be social distanced, and you are no longer social distanced when you put that many people at a table. So the very most you can have at a 72-inch round is 3 spread out with 6 feet around. It's better with 2. And at any of the smaller tables, it's 2 or even 1 if you have a 50-inch table or a 66-inch table too. So I just want to caution people on that. I am also, Andy, skeptical when I see those setups. And again, I think this is part of the issue with the naysayers, I say, in our industry, the people who don't want us to meet and get back to business, is they want to bring up anything that we're possibly doing that gives any type of hole in what we're doing. They're going to amplify. Mm-hmm. And that becomes an issue. And that's why I'm all for advocating, making sure we're spatial distancing, we're wearing masks, and we're doing everything absolutely correct. So while I'm not a big advocate of this, I am seeing this, and I'm not exactly sure why. Did you ask anybody or get any exclamation about why they were able to sit in food areas?
Yeah, interesting. I had a great conversation with the catering manager there, but it was the night before. This was the morning breakfast afterwards, so I didn't get a chance to ask. And importantly, I think this is a great time for me to say, if Isabella's on the line, I took 9 videos of my process all the way through registration at the hotel, registration at the event, even including these as well. About 9, minute and a half videos. There you go. Thanks so much for sharing that, Isabella. So if people would like to click on that drive and actually get walked through, those will be at the link that Isabella just shared.
Perfect.
Michelle, I just wanted to jump in. Hi, it's Tracy from Denver. What leads to these protocols is that there are different requirements for restaurants. And so when you're serving food and beverage, they are very much complying more with the restaurant protocols.
And I think
that's what's different.
I feel like the issue with that is when you go to a restaurant, you're with your family unit or you're with your group. Whereas if you're at a meeting, you're not. And that's where I have problems with it. And that's where people are blowing holes, like the people who don't want us to meet and trying to cause us issues. Anything that they can get like that gives them ammo for this becomes an issue. So that's just something I'm always concerned with. I do get that piece of it, that they're setting it according to restaurants, but it is a difference between a restaurant and a meeting. I'm not bringing my family to a meeting necessarily, although sometimes, like there are the yellow ribbon programs or other government meetings that have families, and I would be very comfortable sitting because they're a family unit. We may have 5 people in a family unit and sit all of them together, but that's different than strangers or work colleagues that are no longer in that bubble. So thanks for exposing that, Andy.
That wasn't my intent. I just took pictures of everything and brought up.
Well, I mean, a lot of people catch that though. There's comments in the Q&A about the setup for that. And are you really sitting 4 people? And it really, and again, this goes back to all of us when we're planning to make sure that we're over communicating about what we're wanting to see done in these instances. Mm-hmm. So what was there anything unique about the food service other than what we've talked about already? Anything else you want to bring up about that?
Not necessarily the Sheraton Memphis downtown. It was interesting, the morning breakfast, and it wasn't for attendees, so it was only for the hotel guests. It was literally to go only. So it was you had muffin, you have bar and juice. So there wasn't any sit down options or buffet or any of those sorts of things. Which again, there's so many different levels of F&B service right now, and absolutely. So I know we're moving this along. I definitely wanted to share something on the meeting setup on the next slide as well.
I think this is the last slide. Oh no, we have one more, but it's the Sheraton Memphis WOVA thing.
Yeah, if you can go one more up. I think there's maybe one last slide here. Oh, that's a great shot. It looks like the guy's getting in the matrix here with the temperature check.
Temperature check.
Yes, and if there's one more slide, or is that the last slide there?
That's it.
Okay, and something meeting setup, of course, important to me as a keynote speaker, but I think it was important that there was 25 foot of distance that is needed between where the speaker is on the stage and the person in the front. And sometimes in a lot of venues, that's enough, that's plenty.
Yeah.
But we did get there the night before, and honestly, we just all brainstormed, looked together at the different ways to configure it, and we actually, physically moved a couple tables around to make sure that that was taken care of to code, and also for the comfort of the attendees as well. So meeting setup, obviously critically important to everyone on this call and the speakers as well.
And I'm sure you had also, as a speaker, you're using a microphone, and before we passed microphones back and forth to everybody. So I'm sure that was different. Can you tell the audience how that was handled?
Yeah, I think good news for us is that, most of us, I say keynote speakers, we use a lavalier mic, like I have one right here, lavalier lapel mic, so I could just take it on, take it off. They had one microphone, but only one person was up there doing some announcements and introducing me. I can't tell you either way whether that microphone was switched out or whatnot after I was, after I was finished. But yes, multiple microphones I think is great for people that are moving around and as far as speakers go.
Perfect. Thank you, Andy. I'm going to ask everybody to come back on the show right now, and I'm going to ask Isabella to advance the slide. And there's the contact information for everybody. I want to thank you guys. We're not done yet. I'm going to go through and answer everybody's questions. I am going to ask the panelists to think about one last kind of best practice or advice you want to leave the audience with today. And we're going to come back to each of you in just a minute for that. For now, I'm going to start at the very top and go through these questions. The practice of social distancing is apparent during the meetings and sit down at food and beverage events, but how did MPI manage social distancing during the networking or social events? Mai, can you take that?
Sure. The receptions were in a very, very large space. dancing was allowed, but with masks on. There was a band on stage, and
just regarding like the food service and the bar service, I think they're worried about there being lines or people taking off their masks and drinking and socializing. How was that managed?
I have to say that there were some that did do that, removing their masks. However, it is not the organization's responsibility. I have to go back to the fact that it is our individual responsibility to wear our masks and practice spatial distancing. MPI and the Gaylord and Visit Grapevine did a very good job of ensuring that there's spatial distancing, there's enough space for everybody to dance and network. However, there were some attendees that did not follow protocol. And how that was addressed is, you know, myself, for instance, would just say, hey, put your mask on, like jokingly with my friends. But again, it's being individually responsible for to make sure that we're all safe. Organizations and the hotels can put every protocol in place, but if we don't do it as individuals, I mean, there's nothing we can do.
And I do think it does help, though. I do think there's something about networking and receptions, you guys, that when you have a glass of wine and you're walking around and you're networking, that it's just, I mean, you can't drink without having your mask off, right?
Right.
You can't take a drink, so your mask comes off, you're standing around talking. I just don't think that receptions are a good idea in this environment to do it properly. So it is a due diligence for all of us. It's not just any one of us. And I do think there's a lot of meetings that are happening now where they actually have, they're calling them like hygiene specialists or, floor managers that are walking around for wellness managers to kind of remind people that they need to put those masks on, and then asking them to leave if they're not going to be wearing them. But at a reception, it's really difficult to do. I do think this has come up a few times, and some of the best practices would be to have everybody take a seat, and you're served your alcohol only when you're in your seat, and you're not supposed to get out of your seat unless you're going to leave or you put your mask on. So that's one way to control it. But just for those people that are looking for ways to do it, I don't see a way to do it again in our old way of thinking. You got to think differently. I can't say that enough. And
I echo you on that, Michelle. I really do. We can do business without an overflow of alcohol. As much as we would love to do that, it is not the time and the place to do it. So I'm sure I'm going to probably hit some nerve by saying that, but my focus at the moment is really moving our industry forward. And if it means that we have to make some changes without having a reception, I'm a big proponent of that. I will support and I will go to every industry event and not think twice if there's not a networking reception. You can do business without an opening reception or a closing reception.
Absolutely. And then do you recommend temperature checks and or rapid COVID testing? I think that's up to individual companies, but I do want to tell you there's a company called IHP. I've partnered with them. A lot of companies are partnering with them now. It's in-house physicians. Dr. Jonathan Sparrow, he has a company that travels all over the world with you, and he'll do pre-event surveys, during the event surveys for health questionnaires, post-event surveys. They'll take temperature checks and have a PA or a nurse practitioner or a on-site to take temperatures, and also if there is any issues, they will address those. And they also have rapid testing there. I think his fee is somewhere around $2,000 if you have less than 150 people. And if you have more than 150 people, it's on some type of sliding scale. But you can contact them directly and just look them up online. It's IHP, in-house physicians. And hopefully that answered that question. Next one is, are there protocols in place if someone tests positive for COVID after an event? And if so, do you guys, what are your protocols? Anybody want to take that?
I can take that, Michelle. We actually have a floor dedicated to this. Hopefully it doesn't get used very often, but we have set aside rooms in each of our resorts and hotels in case this does happen. For instance, especially now that we've got the insurance program that we're selling to our guests, should that happen, one floor is dedicated and those rooms are far apart from anywhere else, and the guests are requested to stay in their rooms. And of course, all the food and beverage is served via room service.
Perfect. And go ahead. So I feel like there's just like any other risk that we have to plan for, COVID is a risk. And so you plan for COVID, you put a plan in place and you execute accordingly. I keep saying this. So there may be somebody that ends up coming down with COVID at your meeting. And the idea is you have a plan in place, a risk management plan to handle that. IHP in-house physicians could be part of that plan where they help manage that, or you can manage that yourself. But either way, you need to come up with a system and make sure that you execute accordingly. That's what I'll say about that piece of it. How
Michelle,
about
for station casinos? I wanted to add on that protocol. We work with UMC, which is a local hospital here in Las Vegas, and also work with the city if we need to find alternate housing for them.
Perfect. And I also want to say, somebody's asking about rooms and whose responsibility for it is. So if somebody, I feel like as a meeting organizer, part of my responsibility in this environment, again, is to mitigate potential problems if there is COVID. So I would actually put that in my contract ahead of time, that if somebody comes down with COVID, I would have an agreement with the hotel that they would, most of these hotels I'm working with, they do have places they can put somebody who has COVID and it's in an isolated area. So I would come up with an agreement for a discounted room rate in advance. Again, it goes into planning like you would for any other risk, that if this were to happen, how much is that going to cost so it doesn't break the bank? And I believe it's an individual responsibility for paying for those fees, but I do know that there are some groups that would feel comfortable in paying for that. That's a discussion you should have as part of your pre-planning and pre-communication process with all of your suppliers and your client up front, so that you know how you're going to handle those things. I hope that helps. But hotels are setting aside rooms to manage that. And again, what is the protocol if someone gets sick during an event? I believe we've answered that. How long do you, how long were you waiting in line for breakfast for the buffet style one at WEC?
There were no lines for breakfast. Everything was pre-packed and handed to you as you pick and choose. Lunch, there was a little bit of a line. However, what they did was they opened it by sections and they assigned tables per section. So I would say probably a minute the most.
Perfect. Anybody else have any comments on breakfast lines? I was asking Mai specifically because there's a larger group, and I love the idea. She's saying there's no lines for breakfast. They all got breakfast. They all got to choose their breakfast, but they were prepackaged options. So they walk up, got it. She had no line for that. That's wonderful. But what happens if you're doing a buffet style still, but it's served by the attendant?
Yeah, that's all just organization, right? And doing it by cohort, making sure that there's directionals. And if for any reason for breaks, making sure that you have socially distanced dials on the floor, just reminding everyone, just like when you get in line at the supermarket or anywhere, you maintain that 6 foot social distancing if you do have to stand in line. But the goal would be to not do that, and to either you can have people go in a cohort and then just have certain tables go and get their food, following those different egresses for directionals in and out, so that people aren't passing each other unnecessarily. So definitely it's just pre-planning and organization, but lines can be avoided. And just going back to your comment about receptions, you are 100% right. If you're eating food and beverage, you should be sitting down, and you should be sitting down in a socially distanced manner, not 4 at a table.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And then, so I hear that we are using additional staff to try to help with flow and to help direct people. Somebody was asking that. So the answer is yes, we are using travel staff to help with those types of things. Somebody also said it could be cool to do a virtual reception where everyone stays in their rooms with their own beverage and they use a virtual breakout room to network. Has anybody seen that happen? I know I have.
We have done that for MPI Southern California chapter. We do a lot of networking events that are all virtual. We give our attendees the ability to pre-order cocktails or food, and we've done it. It has worked tremendously. It's pretty successful, actually. And there are a lot of DMCs that are able to provide that service now, having like a virtual event and a food and beverage component around it.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And I know I've gone to some of those. That's probably the first I've experienced. I'm going to bring up an elephant that drives me literally a little bit batty, because there's a comment in there about it. There's people who think that the reason why we're wanting to gather or we're getting back to business is for financial gain. Sends my skin crawling when I hear that. So I'll take a moment to think about how I'm going to respond to that. But does anybody else have something they would like to say to address that? Because this is, it comes up pretty consistently on some of those sites that I keep talking about that are just doom and gloom, and they don't want to work. They don't want to get back to in-person meetings or gatherings at all. And they don't want anybody else doing it.
Can you repeat the question, please, Michelle?
It was that they're thinking that the reason why we're wanting to have people gather and bringing people together is for financial gain, and that we're putting people's safety at risk for financial gain.
Well, we are social beings. We need to be around each other. I think that's my number one. And secondly, it is for financial gain because whenever we meet, we bring business together, and business employs people. So it would be hypocritical for me to say that being around people or bringing business or bringing meetings again is not for financial gain. It is a part of it. It has to be. This is our careers. But not only for financial gain, we need to continue to educate. We need to continue to grow. We need to continue to incentivize people that are working hard. And that is my opinion to it. And I'm not going to apologize for that.
Okay.
I agree with Mai. I mean, the bottom line is that the financial gain is opening up the economy. The financial gain is us having jobs. The financial gain is keeping people employed. So yeah, it is for financial gain. So, and also our mental health. I mean, we've been locked up and we need to get out. And if we can do it safely by keeping our masks on, staying socially distanced, using plexiglass, then that's what we need to do. Absolutely. We've got to open up our economy. We've got to keep people employed.
And Tracy, I'm going to give you the last word on this before I pipe in.
There's a lot of necessity to meeting. There's continuing education that needs to happen, in many different fields, whether it's gaining certifications or renewing certifications. And there's business that needs to be done in person. And there's a way to keep people safe in doing that, but also pulling in that hybrid model. So it's really a necessity. And there's many businesses out there that are able to stay open and operate. Let's use Home Depot as an example, right? So we are a critical business, and what we do is bring people together for the necessity of being a conduit to get business done. So these are essential meetings that still continue to need to happen, and it needs to be recognized in that lane. And currently it's not.
Yeah, and I want to say, this really does bother me because there's some implication and underlying thing in there that says that we don't care about health and safety, which is probably what drives me crazy. We have spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours brainstorming and really bringing thought leaders together to make sure we're putting best practices in place to make a healthy and safe environment for everybody involved. It's not just about profits, and primarily the profits is secondary to the fact that we are just wanting to get back to some normalcy. We're wanting to meet, we're wanting to engage, We're wanting to feel some normalcy in our new normal. And it's essential, and business is essential. And we won't, can you imagine what our economy would be like if all of our businesses failed? And if you can go to a Home Depot and you can go to a Lowe's and shop at those places, and Walmart's, for God's sake, you can go to a meeting where we are enforcing and putting together best practices. And this should not even be a point. And it just drives me literally nuts that we have that. If you don't feel comfortable, stay home yourself.
Exactly.
Don't cause the rest of us issues while we're trying to put best practices in place and get back to business and create some normalcy and some connection.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to add,
go ahead, Eric, sorry.
guys. Yeah, there's no reason not to, there's nothing wrong with making money, first of all. And second of all, speaking personally, this is a family-owned business. We don't have investors, okay? We went from 750 employees. Now we're at about 200 employees. That's a lot of mouths to feed. Yeah. That's a lot of kids that are, parents and children struggling that, I don't necessarily know what they're doing now. Mm-hmm. And, it's our responsibility to bring this industry back. It's, and on top of that, meetings is where the magic happens. Events are where the magic happens. These virtual meetings are great. And listen, I connected with Michelle online, but there's nothing better than going to the Starbucks in the lobby and then connecting with somebody that from LinkedIn. I think it's the whole, it's the whole look, and it's the whole universal model of connections and making things happen where really the magic happens. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to get back to normal if we can do it in the safest way possible. And on top of everything else, there is going to be a vaccine coming out. And I think that ultimately will fix the majority of anybody's trepidations moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll fix some of these naysayers that'll still find some problems with this, but I think the majority of people will have more trouble trying to cause these issues. But that's whole purpose. Again, this show is about trying to get back to business, and I try not to bring that stuff up whenever possible, but it did come up again. So I do have somebody on that's in that, at least one person in that group. Okay, I need to wrap up because we've been on for a long time. I'm going to do a couple other questions just real quick. What is the greatest outstanding challenge with in-person meetings? Any one of you?
I think just the confidence of the attendee, making them feel safe. I think that's the biggest challenge, because that's what we're doing this for, is just to make sure everybody feels safe.
Perfect. Thanks for that. I'm going to end. I didn't get to everybody's questions. I apologize. So this is the first time in all of these hundreds of meetings I've done so far that I haven't answered everybody. So you can actually email me directly. If I didn't get there, I'm happy to answer your questions. I'm going to go to the panel, and I'm going to start with Rebecca. Could you please give the audience one thing that you'd like to leave them with today? Piece of advice, best practice, anything?
Yes, just practice your best safety hygiene for yourself. If you do it, that means everyone else is doing it, and we can all come together and meet safely.
Thank you. Eric?
Yeah, I would say just as far as the ground travel side is concerned, because that's definitely where that's my expertise. Don't wait to get involved. Don't wait to let the ground travel provider get involved in the process. Lean on them for their expertise. And, because it's don't let it be an afterthought, ground travel, because it's a very important proponent to getting people to the event safely. So don't forget about us.
Never.
We're here to help. Yep.
Never. Very important. Actually.
My limit.
Very much needed.
Well, from a supplier standpoint, as a hotelier in Las Vegas and an attendee of conferences and a COVID survivor, we can meet safely. We can definitely do that. We have enough resources and enough people to make sure that we can meet safely. So be transparent of what your needs are. Really know yourself of where you want to be. It's going to be a matter of your individual comfort. Again, an organization can put their best foot forward, and if it's still not comfortable for you, that is going to be your call. And ultimately, it's our individual responsibilities to move our industry forward and keep everybody safe. But yeah, we have the ability to meet safely. I'm very confident in our industry to be able to do that.
Me too. Tracy, you're up.
Connecting with confidence and ensuring that you're leveraging the experts early on in the process to allow us to partner with you to educate all the stakeholders involved in making key decisions about holding events. But we are open for business. Let's get back to business. It's a partnership. It's about communication, flexibility, creativity, and leveraging technology. We got this.
Thanks, Tracy. Andy, you get the last word here.
Yes, and to be an advocate for the live meetings industry, going back to our last conversation, every single speaker, trainer, college professor, and fourth grade teacher in the world will tell you there is an impact that is lost if we are only teaching and leading discussions screen to screen. And so to dovetail that, I really believe we need to provide during these times quality hybrid alternatives that we've talked about before, but that is the key. That's, I think, is the future, at least the short-term future of meetings. So if you're comfortable, you want to go to live meetings, we have a great solution for you. Let's do this. If you're more comfortable still virtually, guess what? We have a solution for you as well. Let's make these hybrid events happen and make individuals, give them the choice of what they would like to do. That is the way. I've gotten 4 inquiries this week from hybrids alone, including one yesterday, again in Las Vegas. So let's do this.
Thanks, Andy. So glad. I'm really, really glad that you came on the show today. So thank you. In closing, at the beginning of this presentation, I had talked about our history, our goals to inspire, to elevate, educate, and focus on forward movement on what is possible rather than what is not. I talked about you taking control back of really your mindset and really making sure that we're able to move forward, and that you asked your questions today to make sure you were able to get the answers to those questions. I'm hoping that you did. So please realize we're all in this together. We are stronger together. And that's not just a cliche. I absolutely mean that. And we have this the second Thursday of each month. Please join us again. And we have a next month's topic is on HVAC systems airflow, but we'll always be talking about live meetings and getting back to business, because that's the goal of this show, is to build confidence and us getting back to business. So thank you to my esteemed colleagues and fellow panelists on today's show. I do really appreciate having you guys on. I want to thank the audience. Without your participation and asking the questions, this would not be near as robust as we are able to make it. So thank you very much. And I want to just I'm sending a bunch of good vibes and really happiness, happy thoughts and everything out to you guys for a great Thanksgiving. I'm hoping you all stay well, stay positive, and remember to keep moving forward. And if you do need anything, we are all here. Connect with us. We would all love to connect with you. That's why I have dropped everybody's contact message into the chat area, and it's up here on screen. Connect with us on LinkedIn, connect with us on Facebook, but just connect with us. And if you have issues or questions, I'm speaking for all of us. We would all be happy to answer and be a resource for you. So stay well, and bye for now. Thank everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.